Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is Dean Tenney, also known as the Series 7 Guru, coming to you from my studio here in fabulous Las Vegas. Tell us what series exam you're taking, where you're joining us from. We broadcast every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Las Vegas time. I'll take care of some housekeeping and then I'll turn to the comments, see what kind of content questions you have. Feel free to chat to victorious test takers among yourself while I knock out our housekeeping. We have 15% discount code for Kaplan. I'll be teaching the Kaplan Series 7 course. It's a collaboration. Kaplan hires my LLC, which is me, to teach a class. So we collaborate once a quarter. Second month of each quarter, I do a Series 7 class. So you're welcome to join me. 15% discount code for that. Any other Kaplan product is Guru15 at checkout. And then Brian, the Test Geek himself, Test Geek Exam Prep LLC, gives us a 20% discount on his products. If you do have a question for the chat, tell us what exam you're taking. It helps me because, if I know what exam, there's a lot of overlap, but the flavor of how it's tested on different exams, FINRA NASAA, can be something that I could be thinking, well, okay, they meant this or they meant that. So that's helpful. Yeah, if you forget, that's no problem. If you miss our live streams, they're available Tuesdays, a podcast on both YouTube and Spotify. The channel has a lot of stuff, and I get this all the time. It's self-service. But if you're looking to binge, you find your particular series, and there'll be a series playlist. For example, the SIE, there's 3 playlists. The playlists are in watch order. I understand it's a lot of stuff. People say, where do I start? And I say, the playlist that says start here. Usually there's a lecture playlist, a practice test playlist, and a podcast playlist. On the 7, there's like 7 playlists. The videos in those playlists are in suggested watch order. So the playlists are in watch order. The videos are in suggested watch order, but it's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. If you're looking for a particular topic, use the channel search bar. Go to the channel search bar, put in spreads or margin or whatever it happens to be, and the content that is available for that will magically appear. We end each of our live streams with a drawing for a 30-minute coaching call. If you win that, it needs to be claimed within 30 minutes with an email to me that you're the winner. I don't have any floating contingent liabilities to people, where people are calling me 6 months later, I won the coaching call. I go, well, if you did, you don't have it now because it's very clear how you claim that coaching call. You can share it, you can assign it, you can do with it what. Looks like I'm having problems with my internet connection. Uh-oh. Anyways, we did finish our 66 collaboration, Brian and I, so that podcast is available. And the next podcast episode on Series 7 is going to be on debt securities, and that'll coming up next week. All right, let's see what we got going on in chat. 2 questions. Luciano, this is what's that one missing the month of the series. We make it discretionary. Yes, in a option contract. Let's talk about the complete description of an option contract. First is type. Type would be call or put. Then there would be class. Apple calls is a class. Apple puts is a class. Test question, position limits apply to the class. You say, Dean, I'm interested in Apple calls. I say, which one? You say the Apple March calls. I say, well, there's a lot of them. You say, Dean, I'm interested in the Apple March 185 calls. That is called a series, and that is the complete description of an option contract. So if you get that as a test question, this would be Series 7, this would be Series 9, and this would be Series 4, where they would say, what is the most complete description of an option contract? And you would respond with series. Follow-up test question. If I'm going to make a decision about that month or that strike, well, then I need discretionary authority, right? To make a decision about the action, or the asset, which in this case is the series, you would need discretionary authority. Now, in terms of pulling up those QIDs, Luciano, I don't know if those are Kaplan QIDs. If they are, I would strongly recommend you go to, let me just get it out here for you. I think there's a couple spots left. on our overtime session where I have a Zoom board. I'm more than happy to bring up those QIDs. So either send me an email with those QIDs or sign up for the overtime session tonight. I think there is a spot left on that, and I'd be more than happy to look those up on a Kaplan and a whiteboard. You could also send those QIDs to me by email, and I'm more than happy to take a look at them. I'm not going to bring them up here in this format for a couple reasons. I'm afraid I might lose the live stream if I start messing around trying to grab a Kaplan QBank. So let me know what series exam and what QBank that's from. If I don't see you tonight in the overtime session, I'm being more than happy to respond by email to you or by video to you after the live stream. Okay, whoop, that's Brian. Let's get my banner right. Boom. Greetings, test takers, right, Diana? Greetings and salutations. How important is the trust indenture? Well, again, it's helpful if you tell me what. Oh, Series 7, thank you. The trust indenture is very important on the Series 7. It's testable. What is it? It's a contract between the issuer and the trustee for the benefits of the bondholders. That definition is testable. Which of the following requires a contract between the issuer and the trustee for the benefit of the bondholders? A, Securities Act of 1933, B, Securities Act of 34, C, Trust Indenture Act of 39. Ding, 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 ding. Now, it's not a requirement for muni bonds, but also it's testable on muni bonds to know that's where we find in a revenue bond the flow of funds. Whether it's gross revenue or net revenue, that's found, test question, in the trust indenture. The catastrophe call is found in the trust indenture. Butterfly spreads are not at all on the Series 7. If you get a butterfly as a choice, it's the wrong choice. If you're interested in butterfly spreads, if you go to my Series 4 playlist, you'll find exotic options there. You'll find, condors and butterflies and all kinds of things. Stay on the broad avenues and highways as it relates to your Series 7. Callers, very low probability. A caller is when you fund the purchase of a put with the selling of a call. And I do have a video on that. I will link to my video on callers in the video replay. So take a look at that. Again, very low probability. Probably had 2 years we went on the channel before I made a video on callers. It's called a caller because, you're putting a ceiling where you sell the call for, and you're putting a floor. That's the caller where you buy the put. All right. Well, thank you, Diane. I'll see you in class. Thank you so much. So I'll see you there. Woohoo, had my first securities dream. I think Rob is joking. I always make a joke that they say that when you dream the foreign language, that's when you know it. So I always tease that if you have your first Series 7 dream, that's where you're on track, right? So it's SIE. That's great. Taking a Thursday, another adult beverage. Don't have sponsorship. Well, if you get you already got your 65. Fantastic. Oh, I don't know. 63 might be a little overkill, but the 63 is the equivalent of a 66. I think that's great, Rob. I think if you are looking for sponsorship and you show that initiative and you show that sweat equity investment in yourself, and I'm a person looking for human capital, and it's a tie, you're going to get, the tie goes to Rob, right? He's already got his SIE. He's already got his 65. We know he has initiative, and we know he can pass exams. So I don't think that the 63 would add much, but if you can pass the 65 last week, I would tell you could probably pass out of the 63. The 63, the regulatory component of your 65, Rob, is basically the 63. So I don't think it would take you additional work to do that. Series 9, I don't think, Luciano, trust indenture. I don't think you're going to need to know the trust indenture on the Series 9. And I think you asked me about series, and that would be testable on Series 9. Right. So is that a cap? I don't see where you've told me whether that's a Kaplan QID or Past Perfect or STC. So just let me know what those QIDs, where they come from. Good evening, Isaac. Good evening. All right. Victorious test taker in the house. In a wonderful life, when an angel gets their wings, they ring the bell, and we do that in our live streams for victorious test takers. I don't know why you would not take my word for what is found on the 65 content-wise, but always good to have a victorious test taker in the house, like Casey, who is now a freshly minted investment advisor representative. If you have any questions, feel free to ask her here in the chat. Kudos, Casey. Kudos, kudos. I just looking at her picture and I saying, man, what a great, I'm assuming that's a great looking family there. And I know how hard it is to carve out the time to study for these exams when you have other things, right? Families and other commitments. I don't think BZ Baby 13. I'm really bad with fraudulent unethical when you're taking the 63. I don't think that's a testable distinction. I think it's a vendor distinction. But fraudulent is criminal, unethical is not criminal. So, that's the basic difference in terms of the law. I don't think you're going to get questions like all the following or which of the following is fraudulent. The other three choices are unethical, right? So you can't go to jail for selling dividends. You can't go to jail for breakpoint sales. You might go to jail for spoofing, right? I think the biggest point is to know that under the Uniform Securities Act, the charges, the violations can be both civil and criminal. So I would be looking for, like our friend Louisiana, give me a QID or cut and paste if it's not a Kaplan question, where it is you're getting hung up on what kind of a question. And I can address it a little better that way. Going for the 66 second time around. All right, Rachel, you got this. I think when you pass it the second time, and we've had people pass it the third time, I always think passing the first time is the better way to go. But boy, when you do pass it that second time, what a sign of resiliency. I haven't seen Nico in here yet, but boy, Nico nailed it. He's passed his exam, and it just proved that it's a function of being dedicated, disciplined, organized, and being resilient. So, Rachel, I know you're going to get it this time. Can you discuss, this is from K Mac Mommy, can you discuss when you have to be a registered agent, for example, securities and transactions? Well, super confused. Again, I would like to see the particular Kaplan question QIDs. So either mail those to me, email deantheseries7guru@gmail.com or send me those QIDs. I'm more than happy to make a video explication and do it that way. It's kind of hard to respond to ghost questions where you say, Dean, somewhere in the Kaplan Q Bank, there's a question that goes something like. When you have that particular ID, it's a little more helpful. Your default should be on the 63 that you need to be an agent of a broker dealer to sell securities. Period. Full stop. Now, the exception would be if you're an agent of the issuer and you're receiving no compensation. For example, maybe I work for Clark County, Nevada. Clark County, Nevada is doing some baby bonds where the denomination is 250. And I'm the one who answers the call. I work for Clark County and I say, hey, thanks for calling Clark County. How can I help you? So I'm responding to the baby bonds you're offering. I'd be interested. And I respond by saying, let me send you a copy of the official statement. And again, I don't work for a broker dealer. I work for Clark County and I'm not receiving compensation. So I think the key thing to be looking for is, am I working for the issuer and not receiving compensation? That's the kind of the key I'd be looking for. I don't think there's no situation, people get hung up on this. There's no situation I don't have to be an agent if I'm doing an exempt transaction. If I work on a broker dealer, it doesn't matter what the transaction is. I need to be registered, right? The exempt transaction is about the agent being exempt. It's about the transaction being exempt. So, if I sell a non-exempt security, non-exempt means it's a corporate security. That's what exempt would be. Why is that non-exempt corporate security not registered? So it's a different thing. But find those questions, send them my way. I'm more than happy to talk in the context of particular questions. Taking these 7 twice. It didn't go well. I ordered the new Kaplan series book and I'm starting from square one. I kind of think that's not a bad idea, right? It depends what your scores were, Diana. So I usually say if you get below 60 on one of these exams, you just need to start over and pretend it never happened. If you get between 60 and 70, then you got to kind of look at what you did and what you're going to do differently. So I will link in the video description. So what I promised, I'm just reminding myself what I promised, to link to a video on some of the more complicated option strategies, callers, butterflies, things like that. And I'll also link to a podcast episode about You Failed with my 5 recommendations. It's called You Failed. Is it over? Spoiler alert, it's not. And in there I have 5 recommendations for how to respond to that. So I will link that to you. Yeah, it depends on that score. Again, not scheduling right away. I call it the Dean rule. I'm dating myself, Diana. I'm dating myself. But I started in this business when there wasn't a 30-day wait period. And I would literally tell people that if they missed it, to just queue it up again, because it's very likely they could get a draw that they could pass. And for example, I had to take my driver's license test again. I'm a good test taker. And they said, "Do you want to study?" And I said, "No, let me take it first without studying and see if I can pass the damn thing." Anyways, I missed it by one question, and it drives me nuts, Diana, because I did something I tell test takers never to do. I changed an answer. And then I said to him, "Is a 30-day wait period to queue this back up again?" And she said, "Well, you don't want to go home and study?" I said, "Well, no, if I only missed it by one, I'd be willing to look at a different draw." And she was, "No, there's no wait period." I said, "Well, give it to me again." I missed it by one. I said, "Hey, listen, I'm noticing already on my second attempt here that there are repeat questions and you're giving me the answer key. How deep is the queue back here? It doesn't seem like it's very deep." She goes, "Well, Dean, there's 5 different draws of this exam. The guy next to me had failed it twice. And since we were really in relatively proximity to each other, they had given him 2 different versions." And I said to him, "Listen, between the 2 of us, we have 4 of the 5 potential draws. I think we should form a syndicate. We should go out there and, share our resources." Anyway, she was kind of funny. She said, "Are you guys going out there to study?" I go, "Well, I guess you could call that studying, whatever you want to call that." I passed. In this case, you have to wait 30 days. So I do think you should schedule. The first thing you got to do, though, is you got to reschedule that thing. It will let you schedule the next day if you do it 30 days out. So it won't let you can schedule this 30-day thing out 31 days. So I'm suggesting you need to get a date. That's in general, by the way, for everybody who's taking one of these tests. You've got to get a date. Your brain will work better when you get a date. I have so many people, "Oh, I'm going to set the date after I get this done or I get that done. I'm going to set the date." No, get that date. So get that repeat date set and then start reverse engineering, what your new study plan is going to be, what you're going to do differently. And again, I have some recommendations in that podcast episode. So that'd be my recommendation. North Idaho, right. Austin, welcome. North Idaho. Chris, blue sky laws are state laws. I had a guy today, he missed a question. We were doing a tutoring session and he missed a question about blue sky laws because he'd said that it includes 33 and 34. It does not. Can I explain more about blue sky laws? Blue sky laws are state laws. I'm coming to you from Nevada, right? And there's a reason, Chris, that every time you leave a state, there's a sign that says leaving state A, entering state B, because the regulatory framework could be different. The jurisdiction, whether it's liquor laws, the guy who was tutoring today is from Georgia. I said, "Do you guys still have those funky blue sky laws in Georgia about liquor?" He goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, I spent a lot of time in Georgia and, I wasn't allowed to buy tequila on a Sunday unless it was in a restaurant. I don't know whether they think I'm going to church or something or, when I used to come to Georgia, they weren't allowed to serve beer that isn't over 4% alcohol." And I said, whether it's beer laws or gun laws, here in Nevada, my brother, I said, "Hey, Chris, why don't we do target practice together? You're into target practicing and we can spend some brother time." And I granted discretion to give me a pistol, a firearm. And he gave it to me and I paid him. And he said, "Dean, don't take it to California." I said, "Why?" He goes, "It's got a 15-round clip and that's a felony in California." I'm like, "Oh my God." So whether it's liquor laws, when I moved to Nevada, I said, "What's the last call?" There isn't one, right? I'm building a cabin in Arizona and it's off grid and they have open carry in Arizona and you can actually carry a firearm concealed without a permit. I mean, it's crazy. Anyway, so that's what blue sky laws are. Blue sky laws are state laws as contrasted to federal laws. Now, as that applies to you taking a NASA exam, I always want you to know everything, but the state version is more important on those NASA exams because the North American Securities Administrators Association is the one that's making you take the damn exam. So would I like you to know the Fed and the state? Yes, but if you don't have enough brain housing group space, then make sure you know the state version of that. Now, in the states, Chris, what you're being tested on those NASA exams is not that particular state's securities laws, but rather the template. That's a template that all states say, if you can pass this template on the Uniform Securities Act, then you don't need to take a separate test to conduct business in our state. Thank God. Otherwise, it would be like insurance or legal licenses only work in a particular state, right? So, for example, New York has the Martin Act. Oh, my God. The Martin Act says that the state administrator of New York can shut down a business without probable cause. You got to prove why I can't do it. So, one of the most powerful state administrators is in the state of New York. So that's what we mean by blue sky laws. So blue sky laws are state laws as it relates to a NASA exam. It's the template called the Uniform Securities Act. The other big part of those NASA exams I would point out is the North American Securities Administrator Association unethical business practices. So disclosures and unethical business practices are also big on those NASA exams. Hello, world from New York City. All right. Sherry, you just go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. You will see in that a class, and you hit class and it'll show up. That's assuming we have not hit our 10. I cap it at 10 because I don't want to turn it into, where we're there for a couple hours. So if you go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com, go to class. If there's still a spot available, it will show it and you can register. And I'll see you at 6:15 after. I think last time I checked, we had 9 people. I don't know if they're all going to show up, but we'll see. Let's see let me get rid of that. And let's see, let's go back to comments. I'm sorry, when I go to that, I just lost there. We sign up. There we go. Please send the link. I'm not sending the link, Luciano. I just gave you the link. I think, I hate to sound like a jerk, but it's self-serve. So, if you can't find the link, you can join us next Tuesday. Marcel, welcome. I always tell Mom when she's sometimes, when you're not here, I think you've been here pretty consistently over the last few weeks, but she always is asking. Marcel was kind enough when he came out to Vegas. Boy, made serious mom points. He brought some moms some good local Louisiana coffee, community coffee, and he took us to a beautiful steak dinner. So, you're a legend out here in the Tenney household. Aideen, thank you for the tutoring on Friday. Passed my 65 yesterday. Woo, woo. All right. Another test taker. So if you'd like to talk to a victorious 65 test takers, one is in the house. I think I just went over how to sign up for the Zoom class. I realized the chat is a little behind me. So again, assuming there's a spot for that, it's deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. Classes, the class, if it doesn't come up, that means it's automatic. What happens in my classes that are on that booking page, when they hit their cap, they disappear. So you want to check that if you're interested in the free stuff. Everything on the YouTube channel is free, completely free on the YouTube channel. The booking page, there are classes that I offer in the evenings on types of orders and options and things like that. Those are paid, but I do have two free things on my booking page. The 2 free things are office hours for paid students. So I have a free office hour. You can join us. And if you're a paid student, either in one of my Kaplan classes or in one of my other classes or tutoring, that's available to you. And the other one that's open to everybody is live stream overtime sessions. So when we're done here at 6, we take a 15-minute break and then we're in that Zoom. I do that every 2 or 3 weeks. I don't do it every Tuesday, but about every 2 or 3 weeks I offer it. Tonight I'm offering it. So assuming there's a spot available, it'll show up at deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. Past the in-house, waiting for the schedule. Vincent, I sometimes wish that, when people are getting great scores like that, you could go stick that landing a little quicker because, so make sure you keep your pace. Don't wear yourself out. You don't want to be peaking too soon, right? So, the actual test waiting to be scheduled, man. I'm hoping that, Series 79. Okay, so investment banker in the house. So that's okay, but don't hit the pedal to the metal until you get that date and then accelerate. Right now, I would kind of stay in a holding action. I call it the 747 principle. It takes, Vincent, a 747, 120% of rated power off the ground. See, back goes, but once it gets up, it only takes 70% of that power to take that, keep it in flight. So I'm imagining a score like that, you're in flight. Now you just need to, 70%, and you got to stick that landing. So more about timing with a score like that than it is, knowledge. I had a couple of questions. Well, I think I just gave you an example of agents who work for the issuers. I'll give you another example. My firm, Gamma Global Investments, was hired to find limited partners for a winery. This is a Reg D private placement. And so, one of my go-to moves was to take you to the winery. And I'd say, hey, why don't we go up to the winery, do a due diligence tour and tasting, and we can talk about an asset allocation to the winery. Go-to move. And if you invest $100,000 in that winery, the commission of my broker dealer is $8,000. And, there's a senior vice president of hospitality. Here's an example of your question. His name is Ed Curry. He does the exact same thing I do. He takes you around the winery, and mainly he's signing up people for wine club sales. But if you look like you got the resource and you're interested, he will say to you, there is an investment opportunity. And he will sign you up just like Dean did. Does Ed Curry, Senior Vice President of Hospitality, have to be registered as an agent of the winery? The answer is no. He's not getting compensation for getting people involved in the investment. He's got a salary and he's not being paid. Second point, it's an exempt transaction. It's a Reg D private placement. And so there's an example where the agent of the issuer does not have to be registered, right? Let's say it is same scenario, but now Ed actually gets paid. So the winery says, we're paying the broker dealer $8,000. You work for us and we'll pay you $2,000. And now if he's receiving $2,000, he's being paid on that transaction. He is going to have to be registered as an agent of the issuer. All right. So there's another example for you. Again, I would prefer that you actually showed me questions that you're struggling with. Good evening. Good evening, Yeti. You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Thanks for joining us from Facebook. We broadcast to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or I guess I just give up now and start calling it X. What do you think in chat? So I say, Elon be damned. I'm calling it Twitter. But our primary platform is indeed YouTube. And so that's where we do most of our broadcasting and where most of you can find most of our content. And I apologize, Elizabeth. I need to pay more attention to the Facebook page than I do. I know somebody, oh man, I forgot to post that over on Facebook. So thanks for joining us from Facebook. I don't see many people lamenting over the 6 at all. Why is this? Is it because it's more straightforward, not as tricky? Jamie, I think, am I pronouncing that right? I hope I am. If not, I apologize. I think the answer is yes. And here's why. There are 2 reasons I always want you to overlearn the SIE exam. And the 2 reasons I always want you to overlearn the SIE exam is because if you overlearn it, you'll pay huge dividends when you roll into your 7. There's going to be a lot more stuff, a lot more judgment questions, a lot more options, stuff like that. But I truly believe, Jamie, you can almost pass out of a Series 6 if you do a thorough job on the SIE as it relates to variable annuities, most importantly, mutual funds, customer accounts, and recommendations. And I feel really sorry that I don't provide as much content. It's not by design, but I feel like 6 people sometimes don't get all the love that, 7s get. Even on my own, I think I only have one Series 6 playlist, and I haven't got around to explicating the Series 6 content outline. I mean, those are aspirational things that I want to do. I just haven't got around to it. So I do think that is the case. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are people who are challenged on all these tests, but there are less people that encounter a roadblock with the 6 than with the 7. Okay, great. So Louisiana, I'll look up those QIDs. I don't know if you were able to register for this evening. If you are, I'll see you there and we'll look at them together. If not, send me the email at dean@theseries7guru.com. I'll bring them up backstage. I'll help you with any question from any vendor, but it's just easier if it's Kaplan because I have access to their Q bank backstage. So I can bring it up backstage, see what you're looking at, and respond to you accordingly. So I'll be looking for that. Our CMO tranches testable, they certainly are. So collateralized mortgage obligations, tranches. We've discovered if we give it a fancy French name, we can charge more for it. We're not going to get much for snails with butter, but escargot and burr, now we're talking. So tranche is the French word for slice. And so if I work in structured finance, what I'm going to do is carve a Jenny May pool into various cascading cash flows. It's pretty boring. If Luciano and I both put 20 grand into the same Ginnie Mae pool, our checks would look exactly like. There'd be no priority. And so what I do instead is make it a little more fun by carving it up into these various cascading cash flows. Now, what is testable about CMOs is that they're a derivative security. It's important the customer understand that they are not buying proportion ownership in a pool of mortgages guaranteed by the United States Treasury. What they're buying is a cash flow from a Ginnie Mae pool of mortgages. So you don't have credit risk here, but you're certainly going to have interest rate risk. Now, the earlier cash flows or tranches have more predictability and less risk, and those are called test question plan amortization classes. The later cash flows have less predictability and therefore more risk, right? Because, this has an indeterminate maturity because we don't know what's going to happen with interest rates. And if interest rates go down, everybody's going to refinance, and these cascading cash flows will be in sooner rather than later. If not, they're going to extend in their life. And so that would be the test question. And then the other test question, we have to have a retail investor decide the suitability statement, understanding that they're buying a derivative security. The reason this is on the Series 7 is because investment banker types, structured finance types, actually got being interviewed. So I just carved a mortgage pool into 850 tranches. Everybody thinks they got the best tranche. And who do you think comes up with the least attractive tranche? It's going to be Joe Sixpack retail investor. So that is why it's on your Series 7. It is testable. I have an entire video on it, and I will link to that video that you can check out. So hard, but you guys, when you get to the finish line, it's the best feeling. I'm Casey. There's very few things that can make you feel as good as when you hit the button, you get that pass, right? You make your mark. So I'm with you. I recommend Kaplan Dean's video. Thank you so much. Scoring mid-70s on simulated exams and was just fine. Good luck to you all. We'll like that. Thanks, Casey. We love it when victorious test takers return. It's great for morale. So I always want to say thank you, victorious test takers, for circling back on a Tuesday and popping in the chat and telling people I did it. You can do it. Thank you so much. So Casey, Yeti wants to know how long and how many hours you study. I'm not sure. Again, I'm understanding. Not exempt. Not exempt. Oh, no worries. I think I understood that. QID says options settle T+2. Well, then you're reading that wrong, Stevie. Options do not settle T+2. I bet you're confusing the exercise of the option, which is T+2. So if I buy an Apple 185 call for 9, the $900 is coming out of my account T+1. Trade date is when we agree to terms. It's American style. I can exercise anytime I want. I exercise. That means I'm buying the stock at 185. That's 18.5. The resulting exercise is T+2. So I'm sure that you're misreading that question. Option contract settled T+1. Resulting exercise of the contract, because remember, you're buying or selling stock. If I'm long a put, I'm selling the stock. Right? That's T+2. So T+1 on the option contract, T+2 for the exercise. The only exception to that would be index options. In index options, both the option contract settles T+1 and the resulting exercise is T+1. And then I would definitely know that option contracts settle in cash. I can't settle up on my Apple call with the cash if I'm short. You got to deliver the stock, right? So I'm sure you're misreading it, but send it to me by email. I'll check it out for you. Well, bond resolutions, Christian, are part of the trust indenture. So the trust indenture contains the promises, catastrophe call, put provision, call provision, the flow of funds. Those are all the various resolutions that would be found in the trust indenture, also known as covenants. Well, if you're taking the 66 tomorrow, what the heck are you doing here? Get off this link and go to bed. Have you seen a practice exam? Well, yeah, I have. I mean, I would like to know your score, but you don't have to put your business out there in the chat if you don't want to. I would routinely like to see you in the mid 70s. There are people who would like to see you do better than that, but that would be my mark. And past perfect is a little more obtuse than the actual exam, more obtuse than STC and Kaplan. I just did a 66 Notman practice test with a shared screen with a tutoring person today. And it was pretty tough. So you're going to pick up some points, and that's why I said I think you would pick up more points from Past Perfect than the other vendors because they just really do kind of get more into the weeds than other vendors. But that's a good thing, right? I mean, you'd rather be pleasantly surprised that it's easier rather than harder. Hello, Dean. I'm getting ready to take my 63 next week. I want to know if there's some memory aids for this exam. No, I don't know. 63. Kaplan provides a quick sheet, but it doesn't lend itself as much as like a 7 to a data dump. But you could Google 63 memory aids and see what comes up. I'm sure there's students who have come up with their version of a quick sheet. Off the top of my head, I can think of a couple memory aids. We should know late lawyers, accountants, teachers, engineers are excluded from the definition of being an investment advisor. ABC, if you give investment advice, you tell people you're in the business of giving investment advice. You want compensation, but I just don't think it lends itself that much to it. ABC, agent, broker, commission. So there's a couple, but 63 is kind of the hard way, right? Take the 65 tomorrow. Took the mastery, scored 70. You're going to pick up points from the mastery, so that's good news. I don't think you're at risk. So yeah, I think you have a very good chance. If I were a betting person, I think there's more than 80% chance you're going to make your mark if you don't get wobbly and you get a good night's sleep, and you're on top of your reading skills. I think it's more likely than not you will indeed make your mark. When Kaplan was able to collect scores from people who passed, now you don't get scores unless you miss the mark. But when you could get scores when you miss the mark, the average improvement on the Kaplan mastery is 5 to 12 points. So you're looking at 75. So higher is the better. But I would be willing, Jacob, when you circle back tomorrow, or send me an email. You don't have to do, but let me know. If I were a betting person, my bet would be that you're going to pass. And it can come next week. Missed by 3 points. Yuck. That hurts. So Casey got up early. I'm Casey, a big believer in the mornings. In the mornings before the energy vampires get to you, that's my favorite time to study and read and do those kind of things. So I know everybody has a different circadian rhythm, and for most, mornings are better. My brother, he doesn't wake up till like 11, so it wouldn't be good for him to be scheduling tests or studying. But for most folks, the mornings are better. I got up early. I studied before work. I love it because, again, before work, that means you don't have to worry about the people at work stealing all your energy, right? I mean, if you're a part-time studier, those mornings are just really golden. In the evening, I would suggest if you're going to do study blocks morning and evening like Casey, I would try and do the more complicated stuff in the morning. So, if it's like analytical tools and it's that stuff about, present value, future value, and capital asset pricing model and balance sheet, I'd probably do that in the morning. In the evening, I do things that are, kind of more passive, like watch videos or things like that. Practice questions, practice tests, I would try and do in the morning. Merida Weekos, I love it. Kaplan has a performance tracker. The discount code for the Kaplan QBank is Guru15 at checkout. Series 7 is $55. If you don't have a Kaplan QBank, I highly recommend it. One of the things that makes the Kaplan QBank, I think, the best in its class is the number of performance opportunities. that's what I call practice questions and test questions. And then the idea of the performance tracker, where you can actually isolate your weaker areas and do like Casey, start putting them, I call it par, where you can isolate things you're below par being passing. And with the performance tracker, bring those up to par and keep everything else above par. So that performance tracker, I think, is pretty golden. So in your shoes, there you go. Daniel's in your shoes. I've seen, Daniel, by the way, that you're active on the channel. I think you requested an explication with a QID, and I think I provided that to you. So if you go to the channel, you'll see that I did a total return explication video where Daniel had provided me the QID of the question that he wanted some help on. So same thing I said here. If it's not a Kaplan question, then you need to cut and paste it to me. I'll still help you, but I don't have access to STC's QBank or Past Perfect or, Knopman uses the Kaplan QBank except for their benchmark, so I can help you with that. But just send it my way, and I'm more than happy to help you out. There you go. Kudos. Hi, Ivy. I think I still owe you that coaching call. We got to get that done. I'm not sure when your next test date is, but let's get that. I'm going to my off-grid cabin tomorrow, and my infrastructure is such I think I can actually do that now. So send me an email if you're not busy between now and Monday. We'll try and get that done. 3-4 hours a day for 2 months. There you go. No life. It's helpful if you have people who you can say that, hey, I'm fragile right now. I'm studying for my test. Any space you can give me would be greatly appreciated. I'm confused about an earnings per share. Is it market price PE? No, earnings per share is a different thing entirely. So PE is the price divided by the earnings per share. The earnings per share would be given. And in most circumstances, so would the price, right? So they would just make you do that. Net income by shares outstanding. Now we have earnings available to common. We got to take care of our preferred stockholders first. After we pay our preferred stockholders, then we have earnings that can be distributed as a dividend or can be retained earnings. So it's before we pay the dividend, right? So that's earnings available to common. So that would be on an income statement. Again, Megan, it's not an EPS equation. I don't know what exam you're talking about. There is no exam where I'm going to make you calculate earnings per share. I might ask you to have a general understanding of like fully diluting earnings per share, something like that. But again, find a particular question that you're struggling with and send that particular question to me. I'm more than happy to help you through it with it. Yeah, the mastery is tough. Mastery is tough. Does it lots of discipline? Yeah, Rob, I truly believe this. I understand it's difficult, but passing these exams are a function of dedication, discipline, and organization. That's the most important ingredients. And then again, it's hard if you have these other competing things. I get it. Life goes on. So it's tough. It is tough to do it when you do that. Kaplan Q Bank's the best. Pass my Series 7. Woo! All right. Finishing up with the 63 to finish my licensing. I love it. I'm having to watch the new iRecord. Well, I appreciate that. The channel I started the channel 4 years ago. Well, I shouldn't say 4 years. We're going into our 4th year. The anniversary is December, I think, 20th, because it was New Year's resolution during COVID. I said, man, I don't have a direct connection with test takers. All my connections with test takers come from either, their vendor or from their sponsor. I said, well, that's not going to work in COVID. I got to figure out a way to have a direct connection with test takers. Never in my wildest dreams did I think we'd be going. We just passed 3,200,000 views. I wouldn't even think there's that many test takers. Maybe that's just Rob and his cohort watching the same videos, over and over again. And we're kind of on 30,000 subscribers and 8,000 watch hours. So it's been quite the ride. It has been shocking to me that we've got that much of a take. I consider it an honor and a privilege that training departments do know they can refer people to the channel. It's safe for work. It's safe for home. And they know the content is, spot on. I'll say, I don't know what's the way to say that. Content can be relied upon to help test takers. So, compared to commissioner markup, I say at Goldman Sachs, we are a broker dealer. And in some transactions you do with us at Goldman Sachs, we will be acting in our broker agency capacity on your behalf. We're going to get the security elsewhere, and we're going to charge you a commission. In other transactions you do with us at Goldman Sachs, we're going to be acting in our dealer principal capacity. We're going to charge you a markup or a markdown. You're going to buy the security from our inventory. We're going to charge you a markup. If you're selling the security, we're going to buy it into our inventory, a markdown. In each and every transaction we do with you, on your confirmation, we will tell you in what capacity Goldman Sachs acted. So we're all called broker dealers, but in any one transaction, we're going to be either acting in a broker capacity or a dealer capacity. Never both. It makes sense. How could I be both? How could I act as your agent in negotiations with myself about a markup? So we can never be both. So I think a good way to remember it is agent, broker, commission. Agent, broker, commission. DIPM, dealer inventory principal markup, DIPM. You can use brokers act as agents for commissions, dealers act as principal for profits. So that's called capacity. By the way, that's testable for everybody. Every exam should know capacity disclosed on the confirmation and understand this idea about we're either charging commissions or we're not. Some firms, even though we're all called broker dealers, never act in a dealer capacity. So some broker dealers don't have inventory. You have inventory. That means you're acting in a dealer capacity. In NASDAQ, it means you're a market maker. There you go, still trying. All right. Well, Diana, keep it up. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. Park doesn't generate user fee. Well, it could. I could charge you to use the park if I build a skate park for the kids and I charge them. So that's not necessarily true, right? There are parks that I do charge people to access. If I build a sports facility for softball leagues and I tell each of the teams that play in the softball league, they got to pay, right? So it depends what kind of park it is that we're discussing. If we're talking about your point, if it's a park that it's not we're not charging, well, then it wouldn't be financed with a revenue bond. But there are parks that are financed with revenue bonds. Any recommendations what I should focus on for the Series 6? I think I mentioned this, Camilo, or Camilo. I like that. I don't know how am I pronouncing that right, but I like that. Anyways, yeah, I think I mentioned it. Variable mutual funds, variable annuities, customer accounts, and communication. So there you go. Yeah, 82, you're in good shape. So I don't think you're at risk. Well, that's okay. At least you're operational, Diana, with a 663 and life and health. It sounds like you can make some money, right? So, I mean, that's good news. I think that you're operational in terms of being able to help clients and get paid for doing so. So that's could be worse, I guess, is what I'm saying. You're on your third try. Well, that score sounds like it's pretty good. So I have on the playlist on the 6th, I have a Knopman Series 6 exam. I have a Teskey exam there. And I have a Kaplan. Why don't you try one of those exams? A Teskey is pretty good in terms of correlation. Maybe hit pause, hit play, see how you do on that one. Diana, you got this second try as well. It's okay. Yeah. Listen, people invest with you because they like you and they trust you. They don't invest with you because you can pass exams. I told you we don't give any scores anymore, but when we did, if you got over 90, I'd say, I think I should just fire you now. And they say, why? It's well, a couple reasons. One, where I'm going to spend more time with you than I am with my family. And if somebody gets over 90, I don't think it's somebody I want to hang out with during the day. Secondly, you just proven you're big a jerk as the person who wrote the test. And third, I don't think you're going to do well interacting with clients. You might be too analytical. My best broker was a guy who took the test 5 times. He used to go out to people and say, hey, listen, anybody knows this stuff, it's me. I had to take this damn test 5 times. So lots of very successful people in our business have missed the exam more than once. I was joking about her, Diana being fully registered and being able to conduct business, but this particular person was a top producer, and there's no way she's not going to be sent down there as many times as it takes because there's no way they're getting rid of her because she brings in too much money already. So. 65 in the bag. There you go. Woo! Another successful test taker. Thank you for the answer, Dean. My past perfect was 80. Oh, wow. For sure get some sleep and past perfect 80. I mean, I would be shocked with the past perfect 80 if you don't make your mark. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I think he's in a good spot. Oh, but look at this one. Annette, thank you so much for joining us from LinkedIn. Annette was in my class, and she's been taking, she signed up for the office hour. She was in the last office hour as well. So 85 Annette, kudos. 77 with STC, kudos. Net present value. I'll give it a shot. And how it's greater than 0 than current market values. Okay, so the first principle of the time value of money is that money today is worth more money than money in the future. And the classical example, Annette, that everybody uses, including yours truly, is the idea of winning the lottery. And I say to Annette, when she wins the lottery, I say, Annette, do you want $1 million lump sum today? Or do you want $100,000 a year for 15 years? And, Annette says, well, let me figure out what the net present value is of 15 payments of 100,000. Let me apply discounted cash flow to those payments to come up with a present value of the $100,000 over 15 years. Okay, so we do the discounted cash flow net on the $100,000 for 15 years. We got the number of compounding periods here. We got the number of payments we're going to receive, and then we would assume some kind of a interest rate. And when we come up with it, we get a present value of those 100,000 payments, 15 of them, of 900,000. So if we get a net present value of 100, or excuse me, 900, you should take the $1 million. The $1 million has a positive net present value to the 900, right? If we do the discounted cash flow and we determine that 100,000, 15 payments of 100,000, the present value is $1 million, then we should say, let's take the payments, because the $1 million, right? The million now has a negative net present value to the $1 million. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do valuation. Now I use the lottery. On the test, it will be a bond, right? And if I have a bond, it's a 10-year bond and it pays 8%. I'm going to get 20 payments of $40. And so again, I would do the discounted cash flow to figure out what is the present value of the bond. And let's say I do the math. We're not going to make you do the math on the test. Let's say I do the math and the net present value, the present value of the bond is 900. And I can get it for 890. I'm going to say, well, that's a good value on the bond because it has positive net present value, right? If I do the present value and it's 910 and the bond is 900, again, well, then I'm going to compare it. If it has negative net present value, I wouldn't buy it. So in terms of this format, that's how we do it. If you want to join me another office hour on the Zoom, I'll try and do a whiteboard example of that. But can you explain when it's greater than zero, the current market is less than the discount? So it's called net present value. So we're going to do present value. We're going to positive is good. So if the net present value on the bond is 900 and the net present value is 910, it's 900, we should buy it, right? If it has positive net present value. If it has negative net present value, we shouldn't buy it. Now, as applied to a stock, that's going to be called the dividend discount model. So, and again, it's very kind of broad. It's not a in the weeds kind of a question. Greetings and salutations, Caesar. I think, Caesar, we need to get you. I think we owe you a coaching call too. I think so. Let's try to get that set up this weekend from my off-grid location. Stud the 7 now, working on the 6. All right. Not so in depth. Yeah, I think that's not a bad way to get licensed. So I'm not sure about the situation with Diana. I told her she's operational, and sometimes we'll get somebody a 6 just so you can start making a living and bring in some money while you're trying to get that 7 done. We're going to add more Series C. I'm trying. That's another one. 6 and 3s. I feel really bad. I'm getting closer. I have the 3 deck ready to go, the slides to do that and put it on the channel. I just haven't had time to lay it down, so I apologize. But yeah, it's definitely it's on my to-do list. I just haven't done it. Well, thank you. Internal rate of return. So internal rate of return is what takes the present value to the future value. So I say, for example, Trish, I'm going to have you invest $100,000 today. And what I want to be able to get for you 20 years from today is $400,000. The internal rate of return necessary to turn 100,000, Trish, into 400,000 is 7.2%. That's the rate of return necessary to take the investment from 100 to 400, right? I used to use this, Trish, as a practitioner when I was trying to get people involved in private equity funds. I say, Trish, if you invest in this private equity fund and you invest $1 million in this private equity fund, the private equity fund is targeting internal rates of return. There's no guarantee we'll get the internal rate of return of 25%. But if we can get the internal rate of 25%, here's what $1 million would look like 20 years from today with an internal rate of return of 23%, right? So the internal rate of return is what takes the present value to the future value. So that's what that is. More often than not, it would be tested as like a bond. The yield to maturity on a bond is its internal rate of return, what takes it from 900 to the 1,000. How long would a novice who has understanding balance sheet, cash flow, and income statements take the Master Series 7 exam? I don't think it's worth 2-3 hours per day for 3 months. I don't even think you need that, Mike. There's only a couple. I think we could do it right now. You could use this live stream. I'm going to tell you right now what you need to know. You need to know working capital, current ratio, acid test ratio, debt to total capital, period, full stop. There's not much balance sheet stuff on the 7. You're not considered to be somebody generating that. You're an end user of that information. I know the classical balance sheet equation, so I think that's way overkill, right? I had an accountant. He goes, I'm an accountant. I go, great. You got like 3 points. So that is not a big deal at all. So I'd feel bad if you were spending 2-3 hours a day for 3 months on balance sheets, cash flow, and income statements. Total waste of your time to pass the Series 7. I do have a balance sheet lecture, and I'll link it in the video description. I think it suffices. You can watch it, and that would be enough. 85. Woo! You're in good shape. Good shape. Understand the Master Series 7 after a month or a month and a half of study because the SIE prepares you. Yeah, I kind of think that, again, the work you do on the SIE is going to pay dividends. The last week of studying, no, I like what you're doing. Just keep rinse and repeat. I don't think you're at risk with those kind of scores, so just do what you're doing. Exempt transaction, non-exempt. So exempt transaction comes from the way we're selling it, right? So let's say that it's not an exempt security. So it's a non-exempt security. For test purposes, I think that would be sufficient to say that means it's a corporate security, right? Because that takes care of that whole laundry list of exempt issuers and exempt securities. It's a non-exempt security. So if I don't register this non-exempt corporate security through qualification or through coordination, then I better have sold it in an exempt transaction. That's how it's getting the exemption. I'm selling an unregistered security, an unregistered non-exempt security because I'm using an exempt transaction. The big one on your NASA exams is going to be a private placement. And a private placement under the template of the Uniform Securities Act is completely different than Reg D under 33. So here, the test question, Ivy, would be the exempt transaction would be I can't make more than 10 offers to retail investors. And that would be the private placement. Now, other exempt transactions. The other exempt transactions are based on whether the state administrator of the Uniform Securities Act have jurisdiction and authority. Now, you're taking a legal test, jurisdiction. For example, I just was joking with you. I leave tomorrow to go to Arizona. When I cross the border, it says, welcome to Arizona, leaving Nevada. My Nevada state trooper doesn't have jurisdiction in Arizona. The things that don't apply to that would be, for example, in today's tutoring session, a gift of non-assessable securities is an exempt transaction. A transaction by a fiduciary, I don't mean a fiduciary in a trust account. I mean a trustee in bankruptcy, the executor or executress of a state, a sheriff in an asset forfeiture sale of securities. Those are exempt transactions as well. So if it says non-exempt, that means if it's not, again, an exempt transaction, if it's not exempt, I have to register the security through qualification or coordination, right? So that's what non-exempt means. Non-exempt means we're going to register the security. All right, we're almost to our drawing. No, I won't be here, Diane. I'm going to go to my off-grid cabin. So I'll be watching the Super. I'm getting out of Vegas. Again, it's going to be a circus. So I'm going to be in an undisclosed location, northern Arizona, watching the Super Bowl from there. If there's a ranking in sales literature, it depends on the ranking. If it's an independently prepared ranking, you don't have to send it to FINRA pre-distribution. But if it's a ranking that your firm came up that ranks you number one, then you have to get it pre-filed with FINRA. I think that's good. Yeah, I think that's good. Nico, woohoo! Nico, I was just chatting you up. I said, if anybody deserves, to pass, it's certainly you. I was telling everybody it's a function of dedicated, discipline, and organization. And boy, you displayed all that. I had another test taker here today I was working with, and I said, man, you remind me of the living legend of Nico. You had a couple misfortunes, and now you're dedicated, you're disciplined, you're organized, your performance has dramatically improved. If anybody deserves that P, my friend, it is you. It is you. All right. Okay. Looks like it's time for our drawing. I'm missing my wingman this evening. So let me go get our giveaway tool. And anybody have any ideas? Oh, I got it. Why don't we put, I'll put Niners because I spent most of my career in San Francisco. So if you'd like to participate, oh, what happened to our session? Are you guys still there? Oh, what happened? Oh, there we go. Struggling a little bit. Put Niners in there if you want to participate in the drawing and the chat. And let me go get that. Share screen. Boom. Hold on, I got to get the screen up here. I'm trying to figure that out. Boom. There we go. Okay, so there is the screen. And let me get rid of the comment here. And let me put my email up there for you so you can claim if you actually win that. And let's put it that way. Boom. Anybody else want to participate? I will see some of you in 15 minutes for the live stream overtime session for those of you who are participating. It's got to be exactly as you see it on your screen. Okay, it looks like we're ready to draw. Let's draw. Boom. All right, Trish. So send me an email, deantheseries7guru@gmail.com, and I'll send you a Zoom invite from my off-grid location tomorrow morning for your coaching call. Anything else? Like get rid of the saving, remove, boom. Any last minute things before we reconvene in 15 minutes, some of us? You shouldn't worry, Elizabeth, at all about margin questions. There are only 3 or 4 margin questions. I call my margin lecture, Don't Overdose on Margins. It's a waste of your time. So, watch my 45-minute video, and I think you're in good shape. All right. Well, remember, inch by inch, your exam's a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. I'll see you next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Las Vegas time. Share the live stream with anybody you know who might have some questions on content or wants to join us for fun and fellowship. And I will see you next Tuesday. Remember, inch by inch, your exam's a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. See you next time, guys and gals.